Did you guys hear about that shooting?
We're going on like 67.
You guys.
Yo, ring the doorbell. I know these people. Keep running! Oh. I'm not throwing. Can we ring? Yeah, go in. Go in.
Yes, if you hadn't heard, there was a shooting in the Denver area in Colorado at another high school. We keep seeing these things happen. Didn't hear about it, um, in case you didn't hear about it, here's NBC News talking about what a lot of people didn't hear about.
Terror on the campus of Evergreen High School, 30 miles west of Denver.
Use caution. Active shooter still down at the high school.
A massive emergency response after a shooter opened fire right about noon. Students evacuating the school as police rushed in.
We now have 2 students performing CPR.
The sheriff's department says 3 victims were rushed to St. Anthony Hospital in Denver. One of them, the shooter.
One patient has non-life-threatening injuries and is stable. The other 2 are critically injured.
It happened in Jefferson County, Colorado, also home to Columbine High School, where 16 people were massacred in 1999, among the worst high school shootings in history. And it comes amid a violent start to the school year. 23 people shot nationwide, including 2 who died. Colorado Governor Polis posting on X today, students should be able to attend school safely and without fear across our state and nation. We are all praying for the victims and the entire community.
There's a bit of a history now going on with this area and school shootings. It's devastating. More people traumatized. Another school shooter who apparently killed himself as well. It's kind of like the MO of how these things go. I think we should hear from the accounts of some of the people that were traumatized by this shooting.
We just heard a bunch of gunshots, probably like 15 to 30, and we just sprinted.
It was a lot. I couldn't really explain it. It's just, I was scared to death and speechless.
It just is so frustrating and maddening that this keeps happening.
We were actually supposed to have a drill like a week ago, and it got canceled.
Yeah, so none of the freshmen knew what to do.
We saw tens of kids and teachers running up the hill screaming.
We hid right around the door corner where they told us to hide. There's a guy there. He yelled some things, and he shot at us at least twice.
I think it's important to have wall-to-wall coverage, to have people constantly talking about a shooting that happened yesterday on Wednesday that affected so many more children in our country, and there's probably another one today. There should be wall-to-wall coverage. We should be talking to crime analysts. We should be talking to people who knew these students that were affected. We should be talking to aunts and uncles. We should be talking about their family history. We should be talking about things, how they're never going to be the same again, how they've got, parents, they've got sisters, they've got brothers, they've got babies at home, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to continue to go on because they're traumatized. And every time they may even see or hear someone mention a gun, they might have a response in their gut that takes them right back to that place when they thought they were about to die. I wonder if we can have a day when it's wall-to-wall coverage about another shooting. I mean, we never really have wall-to-wall coverage from the moment of the shooting happening throughout the night and all the way into the next day and for the next week about a shooting, do we? On every network, constantly, talking about how innocent these children are. One of them's name is Ethan Ramirez. He's 16 years old. He told the Denver Post that he was eating lunch at Evergreen High's cafeteria when this announcement on the intercom caught his attention. He couldn't quite hear the message though, but around him, other students started to walk out of the cafeteria. Then he heard a loud bang, and then he started to run. He said, "I heard gunshots right behind me." He sprinted out of the school, running as hard as he could. He crowded through a door with scores of other students, is what he said. He then ran along a dirt path. He looked over at the school, he said, and he saw a person he thought was the shooter. He said he was walking. He wasn't running. I saw him shooting right at us. That's a pretty horrible scene to be seen from Ethan Ramirez, who's only 16 years old. Looked back and saw someone stalking them like some kind of, horror movie killer. Not running, not in any kind of frantic pace the way that all these students were, but just walking and looking to mow people down. Here's more accounts for some wall-to-wall coverage. He and other students ran into a neighborhood where they hid inside a stranger's home. Potentially, it was from that first video of that Ring doorbell camera. And they hid in a bathroom. The neighbor pulled out 2 guns to protect them. After a couple of hours, police officers collected those students. More, I'm a little shaken up. I'm pretty scared, he said. He's not sure he'll feel safe back at school. I'm paranoid now that something is going to happen. 18 students who fled from the shooting took shelter at a home just down the road after an initial group of them pounded on the door asking for some help. Don Segan is that resident, and he's a retired educator familiar with lockdown trainings to prepare for possible shootings. He said he took down the names of all the students and the names of the parents who later arrived to pick them up, and his wife, who's a retired nurse, was able to calm the teens down and treat them for shock. Said, I hope they feel like they ran to the right house. Luckily, they did. The guy had to pull out a couple of guns and was prepared for this. A former educator and his wife being a nurse. It maybe was the best situation for those kids to get to in a particular moment when you needed someone who's prepared in America, who's an educator, because you're an educator in America, you're prepared for shootings and potentially seeing your students die and also be shocked by the situation that they're seeing and feeling like they're in a war zone. Here's more, in case you guys didn't get enough of this wall-to-wall coverage. Emily Hiderson, a 17-year-old senior, went home for lunch about 30 minutes before the attack. She hugged friends in tears at the reunification site. She said, it was just a normal expletive day, and now it's gone. I was so close to not going home for lunch. And if I didn't, I could have died. She said the students haven't had a lockdown drill yet this year. One that had been scheduled was canceled for a medical emergency, as those other students talked about. Her mom said her daughter came to the site because she was worried about her friends. Also, you feel so helpless. There's nothing we can do. I remember Tim Burchett, representative from Tennessee, said, we're not going to do anything. And these students who've been affected by yet another shooting years later said, I feel like I'm helpless. Tasha Williams, a mom to a freshman student, said her daughter called about the shooter, frantic and searching for her friend. Williams told her to stay calm and stay put. I always taught them, like, if you hear anything, get down and pretend you're dead, is what her mom said. I shouldn't have to do that, but that's the world that we live in. We see this continue to happen, and we kind of forget that it's possible for people to experience it over and over again. I think there was the Virginia Tech shooting from years ago where one kid experienced the shooting in high school, went off to Virginia Tech and experienced another one there. You maybe thought he was trying to get away from where he lived because maybe he felt he was no longer safe there, but he goes to a completely different state and experiences the same damn thing. Here's an account here. Colorado is a state known for several devastating shootings since the 1999 massacre at Columbine High. From Aurora, where 12 people were killed at a movie theater in 2012, to an LGBTQ nightclub in Colorado Springs where 5 were fatally shot in the mass shooting at King Soopers in Boulder, and that killed 10. How many of you guys forgot about some of those? I think many folks always remember the nightclub in Colorado Springs. That was horrific. Also the other one in Orlando, but specifically in Colorado, no one generally tends to forget about Columbine. It was one of the biggest stories. It was one of the first times that became such a norm for that stuff to happen. That was in 1999. Put yourself in these folks' shoes. This grandfather of 2 twin brothers attending 10th grade at this school from yesterday said that he was in shock after learning his family was touched by gun violence for the second time in 5 years. Mike Webb, whose ex-wife was one of the 8 people killed in the 2021 Atlanta area spa shootings, you remember that one? Said the boy's father texted him that an active shooter was at the school, but the brothers were safe. One of the boys was in the main hallway when the shooting broke out, and he just ran. The other boy was outside of the music room, and he ran too, but he ran into police who had weapons drawn. Did we pick up on the fact that guy's ex-wife was one of the people that was killed? And then now he's talking about how his grandsons had to deal with this as well. Trauma on top of trauma. I just want to point out, if we have wall-to-wall constant coverage and run sad music and talk to the friends and families of victims constantly and give accounts of these children and their lost loved ones' lives and the great things that they could have done with the rest of their lives, maybe we'll have enough empathy to start trying to prevent these things from happening. Maybe on CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, ABC News, CBS News, and NBC News, and the nightly news, and the morning news, and the afternoon news, and the mid-afternoon news, and the brunch news. Maybe if they talk about this constantly, maybe these children and these families will be humanized. I mean, they're really good at humanizing people, I think, especially yesterday. Elizabeth Warren also posted about this. I want to really highlight what Elizabeth Warren was saying. She said, students were eating lunch when they heard the gunshots. It's yet another horrific school shooting. And every time my heart breaks for the kids, parents, and communities shattered by gun violence. We can't stop demanding change. Congress can and must pass gun safety legislation. We hear it every time. And we just need people that are willing to join in on that fight. So she was asked about shootings from yesterday, and this is what she had to say on camera.
This is just wrong, and my heart goes out to his family, to his friends, but we just cannot be a country that turns to violence when we disagree. We just can't.
What can Congress do about it, Senator?
Well, one thing Congress can do is gun safety. And every time there's a killing, the Republicans say this is not the time to talk about gun safety. And yet we have to. As a nation, we have more gun deaths than most other nations, and we don't keep our children, our friends, our neighbors safe by just putting ordinary gun safety rules in place. You know, I just want to say this coming from Massachusetts. If the rest of the country would just follow the rules we follow in Massachusetts, we could reduce fatalities all over this country. And plenty of people who are hunters and who use guns for sport still have lots of activities in Massachusetts. But at least we make it a little tougher to use guns for harming other human beings.
What about that sentiment and that plan and that idea is offensive? What part about it is offensive? If you've had the opportunity to feel like these folks who are always affected by this are humanized. If you hear politicians talk about Chicago and murders over the weekend, do you stop, or do you think they stop and go, man, 7 people got murdered over the weekend. Wow, they've got families. They've got 2 young children at home. Wow, they've got a wife. Man, they were only 31 years old. Way too young. Wow, he had a job. You know what? People loved him. You know what? He graduated. You know what? He had these great moments. You know, next year he was planning to buy a house. Do any of those thoughts go through your mind? And do you really think those thoughts go through the people's minds who use them as a stat to say they want to commit more violence on the American people? Or do they just think this is great? We need more of this because I need more political power. And the way to scare more people is to point out these human beings and say that them being victims of gun violence is a way for me to commit more of the violence and call it crime prevention. Elizabeth Warren was asked exactly what I was tired of people asking, folks. And I'm glad she was just as tired of it as I am.
What do you say to people who are saying the Democrats need to lower the temperature, stop talking about things and,
Right. Why don't you start with the President of the United States? Right? And every ugly meme he has posted and every ugly word. He is the leader of this nation. And I think that when he's posting things like he did just a couple of days ago, trying to show an entire city on fire and a reference to helicopters in effect, throwing people out of helicopters and showing himself as some kind of big chest beating threat, then I just don't want to hear this from the Republicans.
Do you think politicians on both sides have a role to play here, though, in trying to turn the rhetoric down?
I think what we have to say is, A, violence is not the answer, and we are willing to take steps so that violence in this country is not so lethal. Do we have a single Republican who will stand up and join us following the school shooting out in Denver at the same time? School shootings happen every single day. They have become commonplace in this country. It's hard now to actually get attention when someone has been mowed down with a gun, and Congress could change that and should change that.
But they're mad at Elizabeth Warren for saying that, because she brought up the story that I've been talking about for the past 20 minutes. No one's paying attention to the regular folks who are being mowed down because you don't know their names. And now there's anger towards her.